like to settle and be idle and wait for things to come to me. Those little things make the difference between just being able to achieve your goal and being happy to achieve your goal. Share with people what we are, like our cultural identity, everything that is good about it. Apple was really a game changer in my life. It was just so amazing to have this little creature through which you can sort of extend yourself.
Let's start.
We're good.
We're good. All right. Surround yourself with people whose eyes light up when they see you. This is the core principle of this podcast called Mint Talk Loud. My name is Abdelaziz Miara, and one of my favorite ways to learn is by listening to people's stories, to dive into their minds, their hearts, and their souls if they are willing to share that with me. Stories have become a huge compass in my life, and if we took the time to listen to people, we'd be amazed at the wealth of experience, of help, and compassion that their stories can offer. In this podcast, I'm gonna try to talk to genuine and kind people that are willing to share their stories with me, and I hope that you can learn from their stories as well. Today's guest is a very dear friend of mine. He's one of my colleagues at Apple and one of the minds behind a lot of features that I'm sure you have been using on your iPhone recently. But most importantly, he is a very kind, a very dedicated, and a very compassionate person, in my opinion. He's a man that lives every day by his passions. It's the one and only Antonio Chiappetta. Welcome.
Thanks for the introduction. I loved it.
Before we start talking, we have to do one very important thing, which is to pour ourselves a cup of tea.
The thing I loved the most about being here. Cheers. So proud of my cultural appropriation.
As I was saying in the introduction, something that I really admire about you and I really appreciate a lot, I think you are one of the few people that I know that actually lives by their passion. A lot of things that you do and you do every day and you keep doing every day are deeply rooted in what you love. Mm-hmm. And I can see that you actually love your work and you've been working on a few pretty cool projects. As I was saying in the introduction, you've a lot of features that people are using, you have actually developed.
And will be using.
So yeah, I want to start with that and hear your opinion about how did you choose what you're doing today and how do you feel about the fact that you practice and do something that you're passionate about every day?
Well, first of all, I feel very good to be doing something that gives me energy and passion and that drives my days in a happy way. It was a long path, I would say, to find my way properly. I've always loved computers and tech and all this kind of stuff since when I was a kid, but it was never that easy to find the right path to get where I wanted to get. I'm not gonna say that I come from like the poorest family in the world, which is not the case, but south of Italy, opportunities are not too many. Getting into the right schools, getting to travel has never been super easy during my childhood. Like my first trip abroad was when I was 19. Getting into my favorite school, I had to go through scholarships and applying everywhere. It wasn't easy, but I made it. I always liked to act on what I wanted. I don't like to settle and be idle and wait for things to come to me. If I want something, if I desire something, I'm like, okay, what's the path to get there? I'll try my best, and if I'll fail, I'll try again, and well, I'll know that I did everything I could do. So that's what has been driving me and eventually got me where I wanted to be, I would say. My career so far, I got to travel a lot, to meet a lot of cool people, to learn from a lot of different cultures, different ways of living life, different places. So I'm really happy of what I achieved. And as you said, yes, I'm enjoying what I do nowadays. It gives me purpose, which I think is the main thing one should have about their job. I'm very proud of the fact that at Apple we work on things that people actually love, and not just because they're functional, but because they please them in a way that goes beyond the functionality. So I'm very proud to be part of a group that takes care of their customers in this kind of way.
People are gonna listen to that sentence and be like, ugh, they are so corporate.
Yeah, brainwashed. No, I really mean it. I really mean it, because in the past, when I was a kid, I never had access to Apple technologies. It was always like, that's too expensive. That's too much. So from the outside, I always looked at it this way, like, oh, people are brainwashed. What does that company have that special? And then when you start using such products and now being part of the organization, you realize there is really something different about it, about, as I said, like pleasing beyond the functional part of what they provide.
Yeah, I agree. We don't do things rashly, and we take the time to make it not only, as you said, functional, but also an experience that people would be pleased to use.
Those little things make the difference between just being able to achieve your goal and being happy to achieve your goal.
Yeah, exactly. Like it could just be a button, but you have this animation that makes you feel a certain way. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And as you said, it's cool that you can participate and be part of something that has that culture of customers first in their mind. If you had to switch from Apple, what would your next job be?
Well, of course, as a kid, as an Italian kid from the South, I grew up with, oh, I'm either gonna be a footballer or a Formula One racing driver.
Okay.
Both of those require, well, a certain amount of talent you cannot just practice, honestly, and money, especially for the latter. Racing cars is just super expensive. And
Maybe with a few stocks.
yes, I would say realistically, I would probably love to be owning a restaurant or something like that, especially since I left my country. You probably know already, but I love to learn to cook recipes from my childhood, from my country, and that became an increasing way of expressing myself to people, especially now that I live in such a multicultural environment with people coming from all over the place. I'm really pleased to show what we as a group of people coming from Italy, coming from that area of Italy where I come from, can offer. And I think food is one of the best ways to express what you are to people and share with people something good. So yes, I got into making pizza and pasta and desserts and all that kind of stuff. And I would totally love to take that to another level, from me cooking for people, then turning into managing somebody, trying to share what I know and learn from them as well. That would be really amazing.
By the way, just FYI, side note, you're missing a lot if you haven't ever tasted his pizza.
So if after the episode you feel like you need some food,
You can call him. No, truly, it's one of the best. Everyone says it whenever they taste.
thank you. I think we share this kind of willingness to share with people what we are, like our cultural identity, everything that is good about it, and you do it totally well.
You are abroad and you are surrounded with other people that are not of your culture, and you find yourself willing to learn more about your culture to show them those good parts.
Yes.
Because you miss it as well. And that's what happened to me when I just came to France. And the more, maybe because I'm old now, but let's say the wiser you get and the more people you meet, especially from other cultures. And now I have a lot of friends from other cultures. This is also one of the main points of this podcast, is to show what I got after a few years of living abroad, which is connections with people that are of different cultures and that have different stories. So yeah, I got to meet very interesting people. I got to meet very talented people throughout the years, and it brought that need for me to show them my appreciation for who they are and my love for them with food.
It's the best way to show appreciation. And I think it's also a way of saying, I would love to have this from you as well. Meaning, like, I would love to absorb what you are and what makes you such a good person, and what gives you, what makes you feel alive, you know? That's the thing I love the most about the path I took of leaving my country, meeting people from all over the place. It really gave me the opportunity to open up and discover things, discover people, discover places, enrich myself. You know, living in the south of Italy can be really hard to be exposed to so many different cultures and environments. And I think our community still lives with a lot of dogmas from the past. We are stuck with some ways of thinking that I personally don't share, and it's just beautiful that the path we took brought us to this stage where we can be enriched by so many different people and stories.
It's a good and a bad thing, because you discover the world and somehow you're afraid to go back to your home, in a sense.
And find the bad parts.
Yeah.
And realize what was bad already back then.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, I lived through that most of my life, and I realize it's doesn't really match who I am now.
But at the same time, we were talking about this. Once you leave your home country, you have no longer a home. In a sense, you do, but you feel like you've discovered something great, which is the international part and the multicultural part of every culture that you get to meet. But at the same time, with that comes the loss
of that sense of belonging to a smaller group.
Exactly. And you have to learn to deal with it, to go back to your roots with this new acquisition.
I personally love it because it gives you that possibility to make a change that you didn't have before just because you didn't know what you didn't know. For example, I love that when I go back home, I can teach things to my parents. I can teach them ways of living life that at some point they realize they're good, but they would have never thought before that they should have done things that way in that particular circumstance because they were just rooted in that like small environment where things work that way and you just accept that they work that way and there is nothing you can do about it. And I think we have this opportunity of applying some change and then seeing the result of this change in people we care about. I feel it's very precious.
Yeah. You bring a new mentality to that old self and you change it by basically showing them that it's okay to change because you did it. And given that they know you and they've raised you and they trust you and they love you and they see that that change had a positive impact on you, it's easier for them to accept it.
Ultimately, we're a result of what raised us. And I don't mean just people, I mean the atmosphere of a place that surrounds us. So I don't like to objectively define bad and good. To me, everything is relative to a multitude of factors you can never really factor in the right amount. And so yeah, it's hard to I don't like to judge people for having thoughts that I consider bad. I like when I have the opportunity simply to, as I said before, try to make a change in their mind.
How did that mentality work while you were growing up in Italy, given that you're saying it's a very conservative mindset in the sense that you grew up seeing yourself different from your environment and you were like, oh, I need to challenge myself and seek something else. Yeah.
I think school helped a lot. I remember, so when I was a kid, my family is Christian, but they don't really go to the church every week, but they go for like Christmas, Easter, and all those special occasions. And they would really respect religious traditions around what to eat and not to eat, or what gesture to do in some moments when you enter church, or blah, blah, blah. So when I was a kid, I sort of followed along this set of accepted truths about our identity as a population. And then as I was reading through the history books in school, I started to realize how like history was biased, how in the case of Christian church, how things weren't really aligned with my ideals if I looked at the actions of the church through time. And so I started to realize I didn't want to just accept what was being told to me because it was being told to me. At the same time, I didn't want to reject it. I was like, okay, I need to build my own point of view on the story, on each story. I want to understand the why and the outcome of that, the origin, everything. And so I started thinking that I needed to know more. And as you said, probably that was one of the big factors pushing me to leave the country, to try to experience something different, to wanting to just like learn from others. I don't think I immediately thought of leaving my country when I was like going through this process as I was like in high school. But I thought I wanted to learn more, and I always felt like quite limited in what I had access to in terms of opportunities to learn, meaning that, as I said earlier, I didn't really ever travel abroad when I was a kid. I felt like a bit stuck in a bubble. So when the opportunity came with university to do like double degrees and have exchanges, it's like, okay, this is the perfect opportunity to get there, even if it's just a short trip and back, see what it looks like. And then eventually, well, I just started hopping from one country to the other, ended up in France. And now I wouldn't go back.
Go back where?
I wouldn't go back to my country. I wouldn't go back to the places where I grew up, specifically. Like, I like to go back for holidays. I like to go back and enjoy those few days, family, friends, and those good parts of my identity. But yes, when I go back, I also see those bad parts of that identity that I don't share, that I don't want to be part of. I'm like, okay, I built myself something different, and that's probably the way it should be.
But you said something earlier that is interesting as well, which is you could go back to change that bad part. It's something that I personally believe, because I think this is something that everyone that leaves their country has at some point. You have that choice of, do I go back to my home country with this new experience that I have, or do I just build my life elsewhere? And in my case, it's always that mental fight between my parents raised me, my culture made me who I am. I love France for what it brought me and gave me as an experience, as my education, etc. But at some point, I would want to go back and give back to that.
And trying to make a difference.
Yeah, try to make difference for people that didn't have that chance that I had.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
I agree. I had some moments earlier in my career when I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go back, build my own company, try to make a difference, starting from the sector I work in. But yeah, I guess it's just a multitude of difficulties to make that really work. And I think especially with the job we do, we could do something, but it's probably not as impactful. So yeah, I agree. It's a constant struggle. I feel like at some point I will also want to go back and maybe teach computer science or be in a company where I can hire local people, make them grow, give them opportunity to travel.
Yeah. Because as you said, when you were a child, you wanted to find that liberty to discover other cultures, but you didn't have it, and so you had to create it yourself. And now, with time, you start thinking about giving back. Maybe there is a kid in Italy that wants the same, and I can give him that. And if you can do that, then you're changing a life. And I feel like as a human race, we want to leave an impact, is either through your kids or through the good that you do.
Yes.
Because your kids are an extension of who you are, basically. And you also give them a future that you would want to have. So you give them all the experiences you didn't, or all the opportunities you didn't. The other one is just making the lives of the people around you good, so that you can be remembered as that person that had an impact on them, changed their life to the positive. And I agree that you can do that in every country in the world, but if you do it in your home country or your hometown, it feels different somehow.
It does. And I will probably have an opportunity of that kind this year, because I have to say, one of the, not to say that we're brainwashed, but Apple was really a game changer in my life, because they opened this school to teach app development in Napoli, first of its kind in Europe, almost first of its kind in the world, in 2016, and I participated to the very first year. And my life went from, I'm studying computer science at the local university, hoping to get to some job in this town, maybe have some opportunities to go in the north or abroad, but maybe. Then Apple comes, they start a app development school, and after I do the school, companies come from all over the place to steal us. And then all those little iOS development jobs bring me to the career I did. And this year I will probably have the opportunity to go and judge students back in that school. And I really, really loved this opportunity. I was really honored when they asked me to do it, because it's, as you said, one of those opportunities to give back to the places where you belonged, where you grew up, and have kids with that same mentality of yours, with those same dreams of yours, wanting to just discover the recipe. Well, it's not like I have a recipe to get where I got, but I'll be very, very happy to share suggestions, tips, and help them get those same opportunities. I hope I won't speak too much, because, for example, when my brother is 16 and is just starting learning about coding, about developing apps, and the moment he's like showing me his first passion projects, I'm like, okay, now I need to teach you this, and that. And then I start talking for 3 hours about the inner workings of the development language, and it's like, oh, you got me lost 2 hours ago.
You just talked about something that I wanted to get to, but your relationship with your brother. I know it's something very important to you. I know you talked about your parents before and your family and Napoli and everything, but as I've grown to know you, I know that your relationship with your younger brother, is very, very important to you, and it's something that we talked about a lot. But I don't have a younger brother. I have sisters, which is a different, beautiful relationship, and I know that you cherish your relationship with him, and you see him as a younger version of you that you want to mold, in a sense, to be.
As you said before, what you do with kids, no? Yeah, so family is very, very important to me. I will always be grateful for what they could offer me, for how they raised me, especially for how they raised me to have an identity that was deeply rooted into their ideals and away from the bad that could be around me. As I said, there are many aspects of the culture of the places where I grew up that I don't share. And especially when I was a kid, I was like being bullied. I was like the kid that is, I don't know, never offending anybody, never hitting anybody, but because of that, he gets mocked or this kind of stuff. And my parents were always like, don't be like them, be yourself, use your manners to express who you are and to let them understand that's the right way. And so when my brother came, I first always wanted a sibling as I was a kid, and things were a bit troublesome. Mom had 4 miscarriages, 1 before me, 3 after. Of the 3 after, I particularly recall one when I was, I think, 7, and I thought it was finally the time I was getting a sibling, and no, another miscarriage. And I was really feeling alone when I was like 6, 7, 8. I really wanted a sibling, and when my brother came, it was just so amazing to have this little creature through which you can sort of extend yourself, extend who you are, like you would do with your own kids. And so, I think the big age difference made it so we never really had a fight or something. We just like grew up as almost mirroring each other in a mutual way, I would say. Like I was elder, so I was trying to share my passions of an elder guy. But at the same time, the fact that he was that younger helped me stay a kid through time, which I keep nowadays and which I make part of who I am very firmly. Like I love to just like not be I don't know, ashamed of wearing a Pokemon hat or singing Disney songs. And I think that comes a lot from growing up with a little kid. And so yes, I really value that relationship. We really are a copy of each other, I think, in many aspects. We support each other in pretty much everything. Like I could tell my brother literally everything that happened to me, and he does the same. And I think it's very important to me to have this sort of relationship, because even in those moments of my life where I feel like people don't understand me, or just like things don't go the way I expect them to go, or I don't have a solution to understand something, I know that in that corner I have somebody that would understand me straight away. I believe he feels the same about me. So yeah.
That's the entire point of family. I feel like, yeah, you hit a big bullseye there. As for cultures like ours, and I feel we have very similar ones, family is always number one. And you know they're always there, even if you disappear and you shouldn't disappear.
But it's easy with our fast-paced life.
Yeah, it can happen, and especially for people that live abroad, etc. But you know they're there. You know that whatever happens, they're gonna be in your corner, and having that is a privilege. As you said, family is an extension of you to the point where they are you in a way. We don't consider ourselves in any way, shape, or form dissociated from family. We are a unit, and what's theirs is ours, and what's ours is theirs. Not in terms of material stuff, but as a personality, as who we are, as well as a culture. We are just an extension of each other, and that's maybe what you were describing with your brother. He's a little version of you, and he keeps you, as you said, younger. And you know that I appreciate that side of you.
And that's really what we love the most about our relationship, I think.
Yeah, there's no point in taking everything too seriously sometimes. I mean, previous episode, I just said that I take everything in my life seriously, but now I'm saying the opposite. No, there are some points where I'm very firm on my positions. In that episode, we were talking about relationships, and yes, I do take those very, very serious. But everything where I can keep that heart kid, I try to, at least. On that note, I want to come back on something that you said earlier, and that I think we share as well, which is growing up being bullied and being different, and the world not seeing you as that. So you have that choice of, should I change to match the world, or should I be myself? And I feel like I know I had that as well. Like when I was growing up at school, etc., I was not the popular kid. I was not the cool guy that everyone wanted to talk to. It's fine, you grew up learning stuff. And I think what it taught me is to, 1, not care, 2, take it easy, 3, just be fine. If someone makes fun of you, then good, thank you.
Just let go.
No, it's not even that. It's, I know who I am enough to be like,
to not pay attention to
exactly
that, to not value it.
Well, when you're young, it's hard to say not to value it, because they're your peers.
Once you shape your identity and you're proud of who you are and you're happy with who you are, you don't need people to tell you if that's wrong or right.
Exactly. And you affirm it more and more. And at that age, because you don't have that strength to affirm your personality, that's when family comes. And that's what you were saying. And it was the same for me. Like at some point, we all want to be the cool kid, right? And when you're not, it doesn't hurt, but you feel
unappreciated.
Unappreciated, exactly.
And it still applies. I mean, we're all on socials and trying to share our image and hoping for people to like it.
At that time, having family and your parents telling you, no, don't change, this is who you are, be who you are, and at some point you're gonna end up finding the people that appreciate that.
Exactly.
Is very important.
Because then you end up with the people you want to be with.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we were saying about confidence. In my opinion, confidence is a very big topic for me, and it's something that is a red thread throughout our lives. We all look for ourselves and look to be more confident or be perceived more confidently by others. And confidence comes from within, so from knowing yourself and knowing that you are going to be okay with who you are and yourself. So when you grew up with people not accepting that and still affirming it, you know yourself better. You're like, I am who I am and I choose to stay who I am, even though the world or other people tell me not to. So fuck it, I'm gonna...
Exactly. And I think it helps you enjoy life with much less stress than others do. People tell me often that I'm very calm, even when, I don't know, things are on fire. I would just be there and be like, okay, what can I do to shut it off? While others would be panicking. And I think it comes a lot from this way of like learning to be okay with what life throws at you. And it's just like, I know who I am. I know what gets me through things. And I know that if I just focus on what I have inside of me, I can get through and live it through the next day. In a way, it made our childhood complicated, probably, but I think it helped us shape ourselves in a way that makes us enjoy life in a better way. Because we have a true identity, and many others are just like trying to follow the mass and be part of something. And as we said earlier about like feeling part of belonging to a community back home, that's nice, but that's also nice to just know you can be yourself and be a mix of what you lived and be open to change as well.
Change is a really big important topic that we all have to go through, and we have to accept that in our lives. Everything changes, the people, the jobs, nothing is constant in our lives. And if we keep holding on firmly on something, that's when life hits you the hardest. So you have to be willing to just let go and just, as you said, relax when there is fire and be like, I'm gonna be okay at the end. And something very important that you said is day by day. I feel like people nowadays, we want our problems to go away fast. We want to be happy all the time. We don't want to go through ups and downs. We want life to be perfect, and it's impossible. But the solution is just to say, as you said, it's a day by day thing. So if today I'm okay, then it's okay. Let's see tomorrow how it goes. If tomorrow is bad, then okay, maybe next day will be okay. And then you start stacking up those good days until you're just okay with yourself. And you go through a bad thing, and the first week you're in that panic mode where you're like, I can't breathe, my heart is...
Of course.
Yeah, and then you just like, today was fine. Let's wake up tomorrow and see...
It's gonna be a tiny bit better.
Yeah, or a tiny bit worse, but that's okay as well. It's gonna oscillate, and in the end, when you look back 2 years later, you're like, it was pretty cool.
I think that's the best part about life in general. Like, it would be just boring if it was always the same. You need to go through the downs to be able to enjoy the ups. So
yeah, that's true. Unless the downs are very down. When you start going down a lot, you should seek help. A lot of people don't. Therapy is very important. I would urge people who actually need it, and a lot of people need it, trust me, to go, because life is ups and downs, as you said. But when you start going downhill and it's your mind playing tricks on you, the best way to get out of it is to ask for help
and seek different perspectives.
Yeah, so you can do that either through professional help or friends, exactly. Just
family.
Talk to people, talk to family, talk to friends, meet new people, because, and this is again the entire point of this podcast, you start listening to other people's perspectives, you start hearing their stories, and now you have an appreciation for your story as well, and you just opening your heart again. You just enjoy the ride, whether it's an up or a down.
Yes. Well, I'll start by saying that now I'll be happy to use this cover.
We were talking about self-confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
About how you become confident through your experiences and through your childhood, whether that's rough or an easy childhood.
Mm-hmm.
That's who shapes who you are. And in the end, ultimately, the goal of everyone is to feel loved and appreciated. And confidence is just a reflection of how you see yourself and how you think the world sees you.
Yes.
In a sense, if you think that you are handsome and that the world sees you as a handsome person, then you're confident in your looks, for example, and it can be anything else. But it starts with how you see yourself.
And being okay with who you are.
But it's not an easy thing to do. And I feel like a lot of people tell other people to be confident or to develop self-confidence, but without telling them how to do it. So first of all, I want to have your...
How would I tell myself to be confident?
No, I'm gonna go a step further than that. How would you try to make your little brother a very confident person?
Well, as you said, it's a complicated thing because as much as one can be okay with who they are, there would always be something that takes away some of your confidence every time. And it's a moving thing. It can be as high as the sky today and as low as hell tomorrow. I think I would first tell him to love who he is and like make sure that what he does of his days reflects what he wants to be, who he wants to be with, what he wants to learn, discover, what he wants people to see in him. And that to me is the very first part. Trying to adhere to some other external model, trying to belong to some sense of community elsewhere, it's just gonna, I think, destroy your confidence because it makes you a fake version of yourself, and underneath it's just telling you that you want to be someone else that you cannot be. And instead you should first and foremost be who you want to be, and then surround yourself of the people that love that and make people understand that that is valuable. That's where to begin. But of course, it's not an easy journey. It's easier said than done. And then you keep just looking at what people perceive of you, and you're maybe like, oh, yeah, I love this aspect of myself, but nobody else likes it. And that destroys your confidence, of course. But then it's just up to finding the right people to be with, or the people with the right open-mindedness. And if they don't, it's okay. We're billions of people on this planet.
And that's something I appreciate about you, actually. It's you have the sense of detachment. As you said earlier, people tell you you're calm, etc., but it's more detachment for that situation or that relationship. Doesn't mean that you don't appreciate the relationship, but you're also conscious that things change.
Yeah, I try to be constantly conscious about what really matters about a relationship, what's really making it important to me. Because that's what life is about. It's just movement. Things change, and being attached to them is just making you live life in a bad way, because they change at a pace that your mind, your heart cannot keep up with.
But does that mean that you never let yourself get attached?
Oh, irrationally I do, but I try to put the rational part there as much as I can, let's say. It's hard. It's always tough because the irrational part just comes sometimes. But yeah, things move so fast, and I've been moving a lot myself, like physically, in this last few years. So I learned on my skin how it can be to just like have to move forward to the next thing. So I believe that doing this, well, I lived in like 4 countries in 4 years. I think that really helped me to shape the way I enjoy life. Even nowadays that I sort of settled, and it's maybe other people that come and go, I'm like, well, they're going through the same thing I went through. I'm sort of reliving it through their experience, but yeah, that's life. And it helps you enjoy things in the moment even more, because otherwise, when you get too attached to something hoping it would never change, you sort of never really live it fully. I think you're always waiting for something that will happen. And I think instead, when you fully embrace the fact that things change, you're like, okay, now I've got this opportunity to enjoy this moment, enjoy these people, enjoy this situation. I believe that that's beautiful. It makes life just much more enjoyable.
I'm a very black and white person, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. But I'm either all in or all out in most of things in life. I'm either fully engaged or not engaged at all. It's like a binary in my head. And I know it's not a good thing because life is mostly gray, but that's how I work. And in that sense, when I am attached to someone or to something, I go full on, or I'm completely detached and I don't care at all about it. I have to find that balance between between both.
Which I think I have sometimes and not always. It's even that is moving. Sometimes you just cannot control it fully.
I wanted to go back and talk a bit about what we started talking about, which was the passions and what you are currently living in Paris. As you said, your new home. What is the thing that you haven't done yet and that you wish you would want to do in the next few years?
That's a very tough question, because I think I'm still going through the phase of enjoying this new beginning. As you said, new home, end of a relationship, changing, well, not even neighborhoods, but like going from out of town to middle of the town, and my life is really different. I'm sort of like, living a new Parisian experience that I didn't get before, and that's probably gonna feel much of my challenging spirit through some more time. Yeah, I think it's really hard. I think at some point I will probably get bored even of this setting. I don't know what that will happen. I don't know if it's gonna be like wanting to try a new city, a new country, wanting to go out of town and live closer to the nature. Of course, it will depend a lot of on the people that will come my way. You know, friends, a new relationship, whatever. Those are always very impactful on this kind of choices. After all, like I arrived to France for a relationship, and I did this big step of moving to this new place in the city center after a relationship. So you can probably imagine how the next step is probably gonna be driven as well by a similar kind of factor. I think I still have a lot to discover and to enjoy about my current setting. Paris has a lot to offer in many senses, like social life, cultural life, just getting more attached to the local traditions, getting to feel like you really belong in the place, like you know where you're going, you know that favorite restaurant in that street and that favorite spot in that park. I feel like I want to reach that point first. I like when I can fully feel at home in a place, and especially when then I want to share with somebody. It always comes back to that. I like to share with food, but I also like to share as being like the host of my home, meaning the city, meaning bringing my friends, family, close people around and knowing where I can have them enjoy their stay. I think that's gonna take a bit more of my time, but I'm pretty sure I'll get to the point where I'll be bored of it and ready for something else. I never sticks for too long, I think, with me. And I know that there is so much I still don't know about the world. Like I love to travel and I have never been to, I don't know, Asia, to South America. There are just so many things and places and ways of living that I don't know, and I feel like even just going for a week-long trip to some random country could totally change my perspective of what my next challenge would be.
I see. Yeah, that sounds like you.
Places really enrich me. They leave me something. They leave me another tiny bit of how I want to live life. And then when you start plugging those pieces together, you're like, oh, maybe they make up a new story.
I can't wait to see what kind of pieces you're gonna.
Me too. I can't wait to see what that's gonna look like for you too.
We already know.
Do we?
I do actually. I had my life pretty much drawn out for a while. I like challenge and I like experiencing new things, but I think I have the big milestones set up for myself in the sense that I know where I should end up and how it should look like.
And that's back home. Giving back.
I think so. As I was saying earlier, it's something that would feel right for myself at least. I already know like the big hits of my life, but again, as you said, life is just a bunch of ups and downs. You can never predict anything, so those are just in my mind. I'm someone that believes in envisioning the future or manifesting it, so I really believe that you have to see it before it actually happens. So at least for those big things, I really like to imagine myself being in those situations, how it would feel to be that person years before it actually happens.
Because it gives you purpose. But with those big milestones set in stone, yes, you do have something to live for, to look forward to, and like to wake up for every day, being like, okay, this is another step closer to that. In my case, it's particularly difficult to set those big milestones, especially because I feel like I'm in an environment job-wise that in a way gives me a lot of potential opportunities, and in another way constrains me a lot. Like I love the company I'm working for, I love my role, and at the same time I know that I could change from like staying in the same company but being in a totally different city, totally different country, and at the same time not any city or any country. That of course makes it hard to set big milestones in place because you never know how constrained you will be or how much choice you will have in X years from now. And who knows, maybe I'll even get bored of my job, this company, or what I do every day. I like to embrace change as it comes to me every day, and if tomorrow I think it differently, I act about it.
Going back on what you just said, and I think that could be a good segue to how we could end the episode. I want to do something else. It's a little, as I just was saying about manifestation and visualization. And I know this is not you from what you just said. You are not that kind of person, so you want to live your life in a random mode. I'm gonna challenge that part of you and we're gonna do a bit of a visualization exercise. That word is hard to pronounce.
Visualization. Yes.
So I want you to close your eyes, and I'm gonna just walk you through a bit of a scene. Try to feel how that would feel.
Okay.
And describe it to me in as many details as you want, or as little details as you want. So close your eyes and imagine yourself in a big hallway, and at the end you have a big wall, and that big wall is entirely covered in a giant mirror.
Okay.
So in the mirror you see yourself, the future Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to look at him and describe him to me.
Less hair for sure. Engineer's life.
Turkey.
It has to come. Well, the first thing that came to mind was me holding a laptop bag. So I imagine I would still be doing a similar job to nowadays. Clothing wise, probably looking quite similar to how I'm dressing today, maybe in brown. I don't know why, but I started this visualization in a hotel. So I must be on a business trip. I imagine like a very luxurious hotel because you said a big hallway. So I'm probably on some kind of important business trip with a laptop in my hand, dressed in a comfortable but respectful way.
And how do you feel?
Relaxed. I imagine the scene at the end of the day, like I'm checking in after a long trip, ready to go to bed, and probably waiting to take some decisions with people in the following days.
Okay.
Guess this is telling me I'm sort of turning into a manager, maybe,
Okay. So you were an important figure at Apple.
or somewhere else.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now the mirror is still on that wall, but everything is white, and you will be painting your surroundings. So I want you to picture your ideal house, the people that will be around you in that house, and how are you interacting with them?
Well, I see a big kitchen, and I'm not surprised. A lot of space to just be creative. Like, those kind of kitchens where you've got the little, like, island where you can, like, lay down your creations. Well, I see a woman around and a couple kids. I don't know why I'm imagining males, even though I always say I would love to have 2 daughters, but it came to mind this way, so I'll take it. A couple kids and a lot of nature all around the house. Like I see big windows with a lot of light coming in and lots of trees. Must be really away from the city. The house does look decorated, and I can picture like memories of trips and photos hanging around.
I want you to imagine that future Antonio is coming closer to the mirror, and that you both are now touching your hands. So I want you to embody the feeling of being him,
Okay.
as happy, as confident, as surrounded by the people he loves as he is. And if you want to describe that feeling, that would be good.
I feel loved. I feel like I have what it takes for me to be relaxed and feel like I reached a proper goal in my life. Like I feel I'm proud of what my everyday life is, but most importantly of the people I have around, the family that I created, and how they perceive me and my way of being, and how I reflected that in the home we built together.
When you feel comfortable, open your eyes. But when you do, I want you to keep that feeling within you
Mm-hmm.
as long as you can.
Gave me a lot of peace, I have to say. Thank you. I really love the exercise.
I really enjoy it because everyone says things that are different but still the same. I feel like, at least for Jafar or for yourself, it's being surrounded with family. And I feel like that's something that's very important to me. And to see that other people, or at least that the people that are around me and that I consider to be close to me, share that same value and that same mindset. I'm always happy to hear those things. And I'm happy that it gave you those feelings.
Yeah, it's gonna be an objective purpose.
Hopefully. So, big house with big windows and a big family.
It was really big, the house, actually. I don't know how I did that.
Stock options. So thank you very much for coming. That was an amazing chat, and I really appreciate you taking the time and being here, to have someone that is willing to talk, to be vulnerable and open. And I really appreciate it, man. And I really appreciate our relationship. So I just want to say that I love you and that I'm really happy to have you as a friend.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the experience. I think it really helped me understand myself and appreciate myself in ways that probably in the fast-paced everyday life you somehow forget sometimes. Especially that last exercise, it's sort of like set the purpose for the future. So I think this was a really nice sort of meditation. See you towards the end of the season for swapping roles and me interviewing the host.
We'll see.
So in the comments, make sure you highlight this moment if you want to see the host being interviewed.
Thank you very much again, and I want to thank everyone that stayed this long and that watched the entire episode. First of all, I want to ask you to subscribe if you enjoyed it.
You're really becoming a YouTuber.
Subscribe if you enjoyed the episode, but more importantly, please go show some love to Antonio. I'm gonna put his social media in the description or in the video somewhere. So yeah, go show him some love, follow him.
I'll reply with more love or pizza. No, you pick.
Be careful if you say that. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. Cut again.